Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session on GATE as a pathway to research. And the focus of this session will be to tell you all about first of all, we will all share our experiences of cracking GATE and coming into IAC. So, just a very brief intro. My name is Karthik. I am a PhD student in the Department of ECE at IASC. And along with me today are four other excellent students, all of whom were with IASC. Some of them are still with IASC. One of them was with IASC. He graduated recently and he has joined Samsung. So today we have with us Amrit Priyadarshi. So he is an MTech student at IASC, again in the Department of ECE. And we also have with us an MTech research student, Vijay Lakshmi. We also have a PhD student, Nagabhushan. And we have an MTech graduate who is currently working with Samsung, Harshit. So let's welcome all the speakers. To all the speakers, thank you very much for being able to make to this session and being uh, willing to help the students and provide some guidance for them. So what we are now going to do is, I'm going to pass around the mic to each of the speakers, and I let them speak about their journey into IAC or their journey at IAC, and how they have been benefited from the system at IAC, and how exciting they find research. What is this research exactly about, and what are the perks of taking GATE exam and coming into a premier institute like IAC to pursue higher studies, whether it is MTech or whether it is PhD. Okay, so throughout, what we will be doing is we would want to take as many questions from all of you as possible. Unfortunately, this chat has not been enabled for some, but we should not let this be an impediment for carrying this session in a successful way. So what we should perhaps do is we will let some of you raise your hands. So I think all of you have a raise hand option that you can see in the menu bar. So please look for the raise hand option, and whenever you have a question, so what we will do first is we will first let the speakers speak for some time, then share their journeys, and we will very soon open the floor for questions from all of you. What I'm requesting all of you to do is please raise your hands if you have a question, and we will try to give the mic option to each of you to ask your questions on a first come first serve basis. That is, whoever raises their hand first will get the option to speak first. So as in when we go, you can keep typing in your questions in the chat box. Harshit and Vijay Lakshmi will try to reply to as many questions of yours as possible. Okay. So now let's get started. I'm going to request Amrit to come forward and share his experience of how he got into IAC, how he prepared for GATE, and what has been his experience at IAC thus far. So Amrit, can you please take over?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. First of all, good morning. I am Amrit Priyadarshi and I have done my BTech in Electronics and Telecommunication Department from NIT Silchar. Currently, I am doing my MTech under guidance of Professor Anurag Kumar, who was the ex-director of ISC. So my project is based on network topology. There are total 5 topologies in the wireless networking. So I am working on the network topology. So in today's world, people are using more and more Wi-Fi, and just because they have very less maintenance cost, and it's very less in the installation cost. So people are using more and more Wi-Fi, and as number of Wi-Fi in the in a given building is increasing, so there is a large probability of packet collision. And if packet collision will increase, then it will badly affect the throughput of the transmission, and and it will increase the number of retransmission. Then by doing all those things, they will get a large packet transmission time. So performance parameter of the Wi-Fi scenario will come down around 110 and 130 of expected that we are giving. So yeah, this was all about my MTech project. Now I'm coming to my journey with GATE. So I started my GATE preparation from second year. In the starting part, I I started with NPTEL, watching NPTEL video and writing notes and collecting some previous year questions. So I was not very serious in the starting period. Yeah, but I used to watch NPTEL video as getting concept clear and making some clarity and understanding more concept. We all know in the engineering, especially BTech colleges, was are very not very serious about their education. I mean, they took everything very lightly. But I did one thing in the good in the from second year, that I started watching NPTEL video and making some notes. After that, my concept got cleared and cleared, and yeah, after my BTech, I went for ESE preparation, but unfortunately, I didn't crack the prelims examination. Prelims. So prelims, I think, was on 5th of January, and my GATE examination was on 9th February. After some day, I got to know that government have removed railways, so number of vacancy got very reduced in the ESE examination. So I was very in the dilemma that what should I do, what I can do. I was very confused and in a horrible condition. So after 20 days, I appeared in the GATE examination and I got all over India GATE rank 102. And after GATE examination, you will get a lots of opportunity to you have thousands of paths you can go. Like you can go in the PSUs, you can go in the further study, or when you can appear for ESC prelims exam again by taking one more yet extra group and all those things. So yeah, at the GATE examination, if someone asks what is the main point with the GATE examination, then I will say in the GATE exam only two things matter. First one is your concept, how much your concept is clear, and see every question they can play with just by changing some parameter, one device parameter go change it to completely will behave completely different from another parameter. So it's all depend on your concept, how much your concept is clear. So yeah, and second is your accuracy. In the GATE examination, sometimes they use just they will give some question like just to check your accuracy, how much you can handle your pressure, and you will get high accuracy only by doing one thing. How many question you practice. If you practice more and more questions, then your accuracy will be more and more. It's very simple. But yeah, you can't do this thing in one. So you have to, if you are trying to put rank in the GATE, you have to prepare very well from initial when you are started your GATE, and you should try more and more question for your accuracy. Okay. After if you get a good rank in GATE, then they mainly you will try for two things. First one is PSU and IIT. Same thing happened with me. So my grade rank was good, so I was thinking that yeah, I will get some decent PSUs and have package like that. But my family members said no. I mean, it's not good. You should continue your study. Then I have two options. I then I thought should I go with ESC prelims by taking only year growth, and or should I go with higher study ISC? Then after that I reached due to this thing, I reached from for several professors and teachers, my school teachers and all. He said me that the time if you will get ISC, then there will be one thing will show, ASCA is the limit. And yeah, I am today 105% sure that ISC ASCA is the only limit. So you can do anything. I mean, if you have any ideas, if you want to do anything new, till now you study all those things, but that is not related. You can't say that, yeah, I can utilize a modulation and I saw this thing, I say this thing. But at ISC, you will do everything that you are seeing or you make eye. So giving your time at ISC, it's very good opportunity and it's I mean, if you are not coming at IISc, then you are missing something like that thing. I mean, it's your life. If you will come at IISc, then you, before you coming to IISc and after going from IISc, you will be completely different. Your confidence level, your personality, and your skills and your technical knowledge, everything will be completely different. And you will be proud of yourself that, yeah, I am, and I'm the member of the IISc, I am alumni of IISc. So, but all of this, I would like to thank you and best of luck for your great examination. Thank you. Karthik.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Amrit. So, as Amrit said, he did a self study, and he referred to NPTEL videos for in his preparation for GATE. And as he said, I think there is something that everyone who is not at IISc is definitely missing, and that is about the kind of peer group that one gets to interact with at IISc. So one of the students has actually asked, one of the persons here has actually asked that question, Abhilash. So it's an excellent question that you have asked about peer interaction and interaction across departments, collaboration with other faculty members from other departments. So I'll just very briefly talk about that and then hand over the mic to Nagbhushan and Vijay Lakshmi. So the thing is that peer interaction at IISc is excellent. Okay, people are very free to discuss ideas, to discuss questions, and throw their inputs to your ideas and give you feedback on your ideas and whatever you would like to do. So you can definitely discuss what is it that you have in mind with people from any discipline, not just engineering, but even science departments. Also, you get an opportunity to go and discuss your research problems with faculty members from other departments. For example, in the third year of my PhD, I was stuck in a research problem very badly. We had hit a mathematical dead end and we did not know how to proceed. At that time, my research supervisor told me to go to the math department and talk to some of the faculty members there and take their suggestions on how we can proceed further. So I have myself been to the math department, interacted with some of the faculty members there. I have gone to the board, written down very meticulously what is it that I want to ask them, and then they have helped me. They actually come to the board. The professors with whom you interact at IISc, they come with you to the board. They sit with you, they write along with you, and they try to see how they can help you. Okay, so it is at that level. Absolutely no barriers for interacting between departments or between students of other departments. Also, you can collaboratively work with people from other institutes also. For example, I myself know some of my friends who are collaborating with professors from IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, IIT Guwahati, IIT Dharwad, and even professors abroad, for example, Texas A&M University and other places. So it all depends on the particular topic you're working on, and the kind of collaborations that your professor, that is your supervisor, research supervisor, is actually already has in place or maybe wants to take up for for uh, getting for making some progress on the research problem. So the focus is to carry out good quality research, and for that, whatever is possible can be done. Okay, you can interact with people from other departments, other institutes, open to all types of interactions. Okay, so that is one thing. Now let me pass on the mic to Nagbhushan and Vijay Lakshmi. Perhaps you can both take turns and you can tell us about the research programs at IISc and what do the cutoffs look like and how does one actually apply to these programs, and if there are interviews, typically what is it that the students get tested on in the interviews and so forth. So the floor is all yours.
So hi guys, I'm Vijay Lakshmi. I'll first start off by talking about the research programs. So you have two broad categories of programs which come under course programs and research programs. So course program includes the MTech program, which is a usual MTech, where you have 3 semesters of subjects, where you take subjects and then you give exams, and then in the final semester, like we had in BTech, you devote it for your project. So under the research program, you have the MTech research and the PhD program. So, so here you can see that there's a special MTech program called MTech research. So definitely there's a difference between the MTech program and the MTech research program. So the difference, the broad difference is that, like I said, in the MTech program, it's for a fixed duration of 2 years, whereas the MTech research program, you're given 2.5 years to complete the program. So why this extra half a year? It's because in the MTech research program, there is more emphasis on research and less emphasis on the number of courses and the amount of coursework that you do. So while in the MTech program, you do 3 semesters of coursework, fully coursework. In the MTech research program, depending on your guide, you will typically do courses only for 2 semesters or 3 maximum. You'll mostly start your research work in the beginning of your second year. So you get about 1.5 years to complete your research. So when I say research, what it includes is you'll have a research advisor like you have for a PhD program. Under his guidance, you'll try experiments, you'll try a new idea. It won't. So it's in some sense it's a mini PhD, because like I said, you have an advisor who will give you a research topic. You have to come up with novel ideas or novel algorithms that beat state of the art and so on. And at the end of 1 or 1.5 years, if your guide thinks that the work is really good, you will publish it in a conference or a journal as your advisor deems it necessary. So, so this is what makes an MTech research program interesting, in that it combines the best of both the MTech coursework program as well as the PhD program. And this is more, if you ask me, this is more suitable for somebody who's interested in research, one. And number two, is not very sure if right after BTech he should directly go for a PhD program, because right now that is the only research program that's in general available. However, with the MTech research program, if you go for it, you'll get a taste of what PhD will involve, because it's like because it's a mini PhD. You'll do research, you'll do publication, you'll write papers. So you'll know what a PhD program will involve. So at the end or during your MTech research, it will be easy for you to decide whether you're cut out for PhD, whether you're really interested in research. And if you're really interested in research, it will be easy for you to pick up a research problem for your PhD, because you've already started working in one particular line of research. Whether you want to continue to work in IAC, that option is also open. Whether you decide to convert your MTech research to PhD and resume, or you wish to go out for a PhD, be it in India or abroad, it will be easy for you to decide on what area you want to do your PhD. So you get a nice focus and you get a nice idea of where your interest lies, where you want to do your research, and where your passion lies. So having said this, so I've told you what is the difference between the MTech and the MTech research in terms of research. So in terms of coursework, the difference is in the duration. Not duration, the number of courses that you take. You'll only take courses that will help you in your research. You're not expected to do 5-6 courses every semester. You'll only take courses that will be necessary for your research, and maybe 1 or 2 as your guide wants you to take. You can take courses that you want. So with this, which will typically be for 2 semesters. So, and what is special about this coursework is that, like, there's no differentiation between courseworks for MTech research and PhD students. All of them sit together for the same courses, and we all have to take the same courses. So there's no differentiation in level. And you will not worry about whether the courses will be of higher standard for a master's student, because once you enter IAC, you kind of start off from the same point. So the courses in the first semester will typically help you or give you the necessary maths foundation that will be needed to take up courses in future, or attend placements, or carry out your research. So one common feeling that students have is, in the first semester, the courseworks, they seem to be of a little higher standard than what they've had at BTech, and that it may be a little heavy. So this students may feel, because I feel that they have like come unprepared for what IAC has to offer. So I'm telling you this because you should come in this kind of in this frame of mind. The coursework I feel, yeah, it may be of higher standard because yeah, the motto of these courses is to give you a good maths foundation, because there is no point, see, these days you have coding or non-coding, whatever it is, you have packages which you import and you write a few lines of code, it'll give you the output. But it's also necessary that you know what is the maths behind behind the working, who came up with the idea, what is the concept behind why it's working, and so on. So these courses, although they are hard, they'll give you the fundamentals that help you understand and appreciate the maths and the working behind all these concepts, programs, so many else that you later be using in your research. So while in the first semester your courses may tend to be mostly theory, the beauty is once you step into the second semester, the pattern of courses, most of them are designed to be project oriented or assignment oriented. So when I say assignments and projects, they won't involve writing papers of problems or paragraphs of information. You have to sit and implement it in a system, try it out on the platform or the programming language, get the output, and show it to your guide or one, submit. So again, the motto behind such kinds of courses is that one, you get to use in the first semester you learn all the maths, and then the second semester the subjects you can feel that they flow into the subjects in the second semester, where you now know what's working. I mean, what is the working behind all these things? Now you get to implement them in real life. So when you implement these assignments, you tend to make mistakes. You know what shouldn't be done, what should be done. So these hands-on assignments are really helpful in that way. So although your courses may be theoretical in the beginning, the second semester definitely you'll get hands-on assignments, courses with hands-on assignments that will give you an introduction to what research on a small scale will involve. Because this assignment, you'll also have projects in the you will have credits for projects that should be submitted at the end of the course. So the projects will be on a slightly larger scale than the assignment, but they'll give you, but they'll give you a really good experience as to what involves on getting a code or an algorithm working. So by the time you've done your courses, 2 semesters of coursework, be it the MTech or the MTech research program, when you come into your third semester, you've like got a taste of all that is needed for you to be either a researcher or take up a job. For an MTech research student, placements might not necessarily start in the third semester, but for an MTech student, we all know placements start in the third semester. Let me tell you, as somebody who's now sitting for placements, I really feel that all the courses, math courses that I did in my first semester, as well as some portions of the courses that I did in the second semester, are extremely useful for me to write the written test and the interview. Please take it from me. You will have questions in the interview or in the written test that come from subjects like random process. So random process, many of you might have got introduction to this concept called random process in communication theory, typically EC students. So in the EC department, you have the random process course, which is like the next step from your BTech random process. So you have questions from random process, and then in the second semester, definitely you will take the machine learning course, from which you will get questions in the interview. So you have to pay good attention to these courses, and they will definitely help you whether you are going to sit for placements or whether you are going to continue with your research. And for my research, needless to say, it has been very helpful doing the assignments. So by the time I start my research, I know what it takes to set up a code. I know what kinds of errors my code can throw up and what I need to debug it. I have a good sense of what happens when I run my code. So I'll now pass on to Nagabhushan.
Yeah, and also Vijay Lakshmi, if you can tell what is it that motivated you to pursue MTech research?
Oh, yes,
one or two lines about that will be helpful.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I was very clear that I wanted to take up a course that had more research. I was an intern at IIT Madras at the end of my third year of BTech. So where I worked in collaboration with an MTech research student there. So it was he actually, when I told him that I want to pursue higher studies, but I want to do research, he was the one who told me about the MTech research program. And that's where my interest actually got, triggered for the research program. So from the beginning, I've been very passionate about doing research. So when I saw that there are institutes that have this MTech research program, and when I checked out the MTech research program in general at IAC, I decided that I wanted to do my MTech research here. I was hoping that I better get IAC, I better do the MTech research at IAC. Because like I said, if you join IAC, right, whether you want to continue your PhD here or you want to go abroad for a PhD, IAC is a very good stepping stone. Because for one, whether you want to do it here, you have excellent professors here who are doing research in very recent technologies, and these people have themselves worked with stalwarts in their field when they were doing their PhDs. So most of them have done their PhDs abroad. They work with very good people in their field. So So I consider myself lucky when I see that I am indirectly working with such people. So even if you do it at IAC here, no problem. You'll be working with people who have had experience and exposure to very good people in turn. Or even if you go abroad, IAC has a name for itself, and the quality of research that you carry out is also very good. Right? So when you take up your CV and you apply for a PhD application, has a lot of value. Your problem statement has a lot of value, and the kind of work that you have done will also have a lot of value. And the professor who has advised you, they also have their own value in the in the market of research. So being someone who was in general motivated about doing research, MTech research was the obvious option. And this was in spite of the fact that for my GATE rank, I got MTech coursework admissions at IIT Madras, Kharagpur and Kanpur. But yeah, I just simply rejected them because yeah, the MTech interviews happened before the MTech research interviews. But yeah, I took that risk because I wanted to give it a try. So to me, it took like I would get it at IAC or IIT Madras. So I took that risk and then I rejected my MTech admissions. And yeah, by the time IAC results came, I think I had only IIT Kharagpur left. But it's fine. So I got MTech research at IAC, and that's all that matters. And then regarding the admission process, there's not much difference. Let me tell you, like people have this question. There's not much difference in the admission process. Only in the application you need to mention whether you want to do an MTech research, PhD or MTech. That's all. And the interviews, being someone who has appeared for all types of interviews, I mean the MTech and the MTech research interviews, I feel that the questions don't differ. The admission process, there's no difference. The difference only comes from the fact that there'll be some difference in the cutoffs. That I think Karthi will talk about it later. There'll be some slight difference in the cutoffs that are calculated for each program. Otherwise, from a student's point of view, the preparation that needs to be done is the same. So you need not worry about whether you're applying for an MTech or an MTech research program. You give your best, you prepare the same. But while filling the form, you just need to tell which program that you want to apply for. That's all.
Okay, thanks a lot, Vijay Lakshmi. I think that was really helpful. So, can I now request Nagbhushan to tell what motivated him to pursue PhD at IAC in place of, let's say, MTech research, for example? So, what motivated you to take a PhD? How did you get to know about the PhD program at IAC, and how has it been thus far?
Thanks, Karthik. Yeah. So one thing, like even from when I was small, I was always interested to do PhD. So that was always there at the back of my mind. So even after my BTech, even though I went for industry, I worked for 2 years and I came back to do my PhD. So one thing I didn't know about the PhD is that you can do directly after BTech. I think Vijay Lakshmi touched upon it a little. So there is this option in IIC where you need not do MTech and then do PhD. You can directly do a PhD after MTech. The difference is that you'll have slightly more number of courses, but the advantage is that you don't have to take any course that you don't like to do. So suppose I'm working in image processing, I need not take any courses related to communication. But if I do a MTech course, I will have to. There will be some mandatory courses which they will need to be taken. That is one advantage of doing direct PhD. The other motivation for me to do PhD is that, like, when you do PhD, you design some algorithm or do something, write a paper that is in your name. It's not like something that goes to a company or somebody. It will be there in your name till you die. But when you work in industry or some place, it will be just you will be working for them. It won't be like you won't have that feeling that, okay, I'm doing something in my life, or that job satisfaction I was missing when I was working in an industry. But that is what is available here. When you do a PhD here, you'll be able to design some algorithms which will be very difficult to do if you go to an industry. And then, so there were some questions about interviews. So I'll just give an example of the kind of interview that happens in IAC. I'll take an example of a linear algebra course. I hope most of you will be familiar with that course. So the one question that the professors asked me in the beginning of my interview was that if you have a set of orthogonal vectors, what can you say about their linear independence? I just said that a set of orthogonal vectors are linearly independent. So then their next question was, suppose you have a zero vector and you have another vector. Are these two vectors orthogonal? Yes, I said because the zero vector is orthogonal to all other vectors. So if you have a set of orthogonal vectors and you add a zero vector to that, will that set remain still an orthogonal set? Yes. Now the next question was, suppose you have a set of vectors including a zero vector. Is this set linearly independent? I said no, because any set containing a zero vector is not independent. So now they connected these two questions and asked the final question that, so you have a set of orthogonal vectors and add a zero vector to it. By your first statement that the orthogonal vectors are linearly independent, this set has to be linearly independent. But by your second statement that any set containing zero vectors is linearly dependent, this set should be linearly dependent. So now we have come at a contradiction. How do you solve this? So if you observe the way they ask the questions, they start with a basic question, and depending on how you answer, they try to figure out how you can respond to their questions. They just go in depth of that question and see how you respond to those questions. So to answer that question, the set of non-zero orthogonal vectors will be linearly independent. So when I said that, they were convinced, and then they moved on to the next questions. So most of the questions will be like this. So they try to understand, they try to see how well you have understood the concepts, and it's not about just answering the question, but how well you can you have understood the concepts. And suppose you are stuck, how well can you try to get out of where you are stuck? You need not solve the questions whatever they asked efficiently in a few minutes of time. It's fine if you get stuck, they will help you, but in that time they'll see how you try to come out of that problem. Yeah, so that's just a
So
small.
there is one more. So I just like to add one statement there. On top of what Nagbhushan already said excellently, which is that it's okay to get stuck. Okay, so this is one thing that we are not used to. So please make a note of this. It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, professors at IISc who are taking the interview will be very happy if you make 10 mistakes. They will not scold you for that, or they will not pinpoint and say, oh, you made a mistake. That doesn't happen at all. They'll be very happy if you make 10 mistakes, and if you can identify your own mistake, that's even better. So you let's say you go out to the board, and typically in the interview the professors will ask you to go to the board. They will give you a marker, and then they will say, go and write whatever we are asking you to do. So they will ask you questions. You will have to work out on the board so that they can also see what you are thinking about. So what happens is that you will keep working out, and eventually you will realize you have made a mistake. That is okay, as long as you can tell the professors openly, actually I have made a mistake, I don't think this is the right approach because blah blah blah, because you know why there is a mistake in whatever you have done. So if you can identify that mistake, and if you can openly communicate that mistake to the professors, they'll be very happy. They'll give you another chance. They'll say, okay, very good, you say you have done a mistake, so do you know how to rectify this? Do you know how you can go ahead from here? So if you're not able to go ahead, they will give you pointers, they will give you some suggestions, tips, some helping hand for how you can proceed. And depending on that, if you can catch those tips that they give you, some suggestions that they give you, and if you can work out the final solution, very good, very well. Okay, but if you can't work out the final solution also, it is okay. That is the main thing that I did not know when I also joined for PhD. Because after I came out of the interview, the feeling that I had in my mind was that I have performed terribly. I have messed up the interview so badly that I will not get selected, is what I had in mind. But later on, after I joined IISc, after I got to know some of the professors a little closely, after I interacted with them, I asked them, what is it that you professors actually look for in the interview? Why is it like so why is there like an environment where a student tries to get scared? Is it really necessary that the student should be asked so many questions? And why not just ask one or two questions and let the student go? That was the opinion I had in my mind. Why even grill the students for so long? The point is, it's not about grilling the students so long. It is about what the professors told me. I'm telling you like openly, okay? I'm just sharing with you what the professors told me. So they said, we want to test whether a student who has not encountered some question before, if it is a new question for the student, if it is something that the student has not thought about before, will the student become blank, or will he try out 2 or 3 steps, see if it works? If it doesn't work out, it's okay, he can ask us for help. But will he be interactive? Can he think on his own feet? Can he think independently? When I say he, it's he or a she. Okay, so can the student think independently is all that they test. And till they get convinced that you can think independently, they will keep on going with the questions. So ultimately, what is the purpose of the interview? Let's say you clear the interview. You will join the PhD program or the master's program. Some program you will join. Both the programs will ultimately culminate in research. Okay, research is the main focus at IISc. That is the main difference between IISc, IITs, and many of the other institutes where there is not much emphasis on research. IISc and the premier institutes place a lot of emphasis on research. Okay, so in research, you are doing something which nobody else has done before. You are the first person to be thinking about some idea, and that is the value that you add to your PhD. Okay, that is the value you add to the scientific community. If that is the case, obviously you will not find many sources to help you because you are the first person to be thinking about something. So if that is the case, you have to proceed independently on your own feet. You try 10 things, they don't work out, you publish that saying 10 things don't work out. There is a value to that also. Okay, so can you think independently is what ultimately matters in your PhD. Your BTech scores don't matter. The scores that you get in the courses you take at IISc don't matter. Nothing, no marks matters in PhD. All that matters is your perseverance and the independence with which you can think on your own feet, because you're going to do something new which nobody else has done before. Okay, so because they want to test your independence, test the independence of your thinking, that is exactly what they test even in the interview. Okay, so please don't be scared of the professors when you come to the interview. Answer freely. It's okay if you tell 1 is equal to 2. It's okay, you correct yourself and say, I made a mistake, it's not like that. Professors will agree with that. Okay, so that was just a small thing I wanted to add. Yeah, Nagbhushan, please go ahead if you want to share something more.
Yeah. So Karthik excellently put about the interview part. I'll just add one comparison between the interviews that happens in ISC versus the interview in industry. So recently I had got a meme saying that so suppose in an interview you use a recursion, interviewer will be very happy that you are able to solve the problem with a recursion. But whereas if you use the same thing in a production, all of them will be very unhappy with your code. But that doesn't happen here. Whatever they ask in the interview, you will be using it in your day-to-day life. It's not like they'll test you on something that you'll never use. Whatever they test you, you will be using in your next days. Okay, so next coming to so one other thing that usually people have a misconception is that I've already studied for 12 plus 4, 16 years. Do I have to study again for 5 years to do a PhD? No, PhD is not just about studying. So you just do coursework for 1 year and then the next 4 years you will be doing research. And you will be paid to do the research. You will be paid to do a research in the domain that you like, on the problem that you like, on using the tools that you like. There are different fellowships that are available to PhD students. So every student, a MTech or PhD student, will get a MHRD fellowship that will be confirmed for every student. On top of that, there are many other industry fellowships. Like there is something called a Cisco fellowship, and there is a Google fellowship, which pays you 32 lakh for 4 years. So you can apply for that. And even after there is, apart from these two, there is something called as Prime Minister's Research Fellowship, which is also provided by MHRD. So they give you 70 to 80K per month. Imagine that, 70 to 80K per month to do what you like using the tools what you like. So it's not like you'll be just wasting another 5 years of your time. You will be earning to do the quality of research that you do here. And then
I think that's the important part, because you get to work on what you like. So typically, the kind of profiles that are offered to students is not the one that they actually want to work on. So you are working on something that you like, and you're actually getting paid for that. That's the best part about being at IAC. Yeah, please proceed.
So then about the advisors, if you look at a few advisors, few professors in IAC, you can see that some of them have done their PhD among the stalwarts in their field. Like if you have taken wireless communication course, you will know Andrea Goldsmith. There's a professor in IAC who has done PhD under Andrea Goldsmith. My advisor has worked with Thomas Cover. If you have taken information theory course, there is a textbook by Cover and Thomas, right? So that author, Thomas Cover, my advisor has worked with him. My advisor has also worked in Qualcomm. There are very different professors who have worked in other research labs like Bell Labs, AT&T Labs, and so on. So the point is that when they have worked in such forefront of research, they know what exactly is useful. They know how the research might take direction next. And based on this, they will give the research problems, or even the courses are set based on that. They know what will be useful to you and to the community in the coming days. So it's not like in BE where you study a subject and you may not use it throughout your life. Here, whatever you study here will be useful, and you will be using it every day, almost every day. The other advantage with working with such stalwarts is that they'll have immense knowledge about very different things. They'll have an insight about how different things work, which you may not get anywhere. You will not get it whether by reading books or just working on your own. You'll get only those insights when you talk with these professors who have worked in such domains, and you will get to interact with them on day-to-day basis. You'll be able to pick their brains, and you will get a lot of information, knowledge that is outside the textbook from them. And finally, the other advantage of doing a PhD is that when you submit a conference or conferences, you can IAC sponsors you to go to that conference. They pays you to go to that conference and present your work. You won't have to pay the flight cost or the other costs out of your pocket. And when you go to such conferences, you will be able to talk with big shots in your fields. Like suppose if you take machine learning, suppose Jan LeCun might have come in to present a paper there. You will get a chance to interact with them, such big people on the when you go to conferences. And not only do we go to conferences, IISc also hosts international conferences. So when IISc hosts international conferences, a lot of people, such big peoples will actually come to IISc, and you'll be able to talk with them. You'll be able for a few days, you can interact with them with so many different people, and you'll be able to get a lot of information out of them. And yeah, and suppose some people had asked about internship or everything. Yes, you can do internships also. So there are different kinds of internships. You can either do it in industry, you can go for a 3 month or 6 months internship, or you can even go to some other institutes. Like there will be foreign student exchange program where a student from India can go to a university abroad, and some student from there will come here. So when you go there, you'll be able to interact with the diverse kind of students, and you'll be able to see how they think about the problem, how they go about solving a problem, and the amount of exposure you'll get in such things will be immense. You will never get any such amount of exposure in anything else. So just to summarize, when you join for a PhD in IISc, you get to work on something you like, you'll be paid for that, and you'll be able to talk and interact with so many big people of the field and other budding researchers in the field also. Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's it.
great. Yeah, thanks a lot, Nagbhushan, for those valuable insights. There were a couple of questions about whether MTech students will be paid. I think Harshit has already answered. MTech, PhD, all students will be paid for the duration that they are at IISc. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. Everyone will get paid. As Nagbhushan said, there are certain specific fellowships that one can avail of in addition to, that is on top of the stipend that the government already pays us. Okay, so everybody will get paid. So there is absolutely nothing to worry about that. And I'll also talk a little bit about foreign exchange students and all of that towards the end of the program. I think many of you will definitely now be wanting to listen to Harshit who has graduated from IISc with a master's and who is working in the industry. So I think his experience will be extremely valuable. So he will kind of tell us what goes into placements and what are the opportunities after graduating from a premier institute like IISc. So yeah, Harshit, all yours.
Yeah, hi, Marshit. So, yeah, when I think all my friends have talked about the research at IISc. So, the research that you conduct at IISc is really helpful once you graduate after your MTech or even after PhD. So, the MTech is a 2-year course. Like as soon as you complete your first year and once you enter your second year, the placements will start. So the placements will begin as soon as in your second year, and in the third semester itself, most of the MTech students will get placed in their companies. So one thing that made me to do the MTech is because of the industry that I want to work in. So especially when you are in BTech, you will not have an expertise in a specific domain. You will have just the basic knowledge in overall all the fields. So whenever I was in BTech and whenever I trying to attend for the placements, I was not getting the core domain jobs that I wanted or that I am really interested in. So there were software jobs or some IT company jobs, so which I was not interested in. So that motivated me to do MTech at IISc. So doing MTech at IISc will help you get an expertise in your specific domain. So there are different specializations based on your departments, and once you specialize them and then when you complete your courses, you will be equipped with so much knowledge that you can crack any interview of your company. Like if there is a company in your domain and if you have done courses from IISc, then you can easily crack those interviews, attend the tests, and then everything. It will be a smooth process. There will not be any pressure or you will not worry about preparing for the interview as such. So the courses in IISc are designed such that it meets the industry requirement and they cover the latest technology that is there. So once you enter the industry also, you will not feel the pressure to ramp up to the industry level as such, because you had already gone through that process and have been doing this over a year. So when you do your MTech project also, you will be doing your MTech project on the latest research trends and then on the latest technology that even the industry has not even started working. So you will be well above the industry level. So that makes you easy to get into the industry and also work there. That's the one part. And even after, if you want to do PhD abroad after your MTech, so IISc is the best platform because as many of the colleagues have told here, the professors here are of world class and they are from PhD. They have done their PhDs and postdocs from the top universities in the world. So with their recommendations and with their experience, they will also guide you and help you to get a PhD at an abroad. So this way, graduating from IISc or studying at IISc will give you an experience and a flavor of research, but also help you to get placed in the specific company that you are interested in. So at the BTech level, you'll not be able to get that company of your wish because the company demands an expertise in a domain. So IISc will help you do that. So and the IISc is one of the premier institutes in India. So most of the companies will visit IISc on priority, and the students of IISc are always given a preference in the placements, and the packages will be of top notch when you compare with all other institutions. So once you enter the industry, also the people from IISc are valued in the industry, and they will get the promotions and those things very easily because they have already worked in their MTech projects on the latest technology. So it helps them to build their career easily. So I think not just research, but IISc will also give you a very good placements. And even in your before you finish your third semester itself, you will be placed most of the time. So I think it would be a great opportunity for you to write the GATE exam and get into IISc and have an experience. So over to you, Karthik.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Harshit. Uh, I think we'll now start taking questions. I think all the speakers have spoken once. I think they have all added value in their own way, sharing their journey, sharing their experiences at IISc. So there are a couple more things that I will add before we go on to the question answer session. So the floor is now open for questions. You can all raise your hands one by one. So before that, I just want to tell a few more things. One is that regarding the cutoff, okay, regarding the GATE scores, the GATE ranks for admissions at IISc. So usually there is a gate score. Okay, usually there is a gate score that is prescribed for MTech, the coursework programs, and sorry, for the gate. Usually there is a gate rank that is prescribed for the MTech coursework programs, and there is a gate score for the MTech or the research programs, the MTech research and the PhD programs. Okay, so that is what it is like. The cutoffs will vary from year to year. Okay, every year the cutoffs are going to vary. Usually the gate score cutoffs for the research programs is about 600 as far as I know for the general category students, and the gate rank cutoffs will vary on a yearly basis. Okay, it depends on which year you are applying in. Now the reason I say this is because you all will get a rank out of 100 when you appear for gate exam. Okay, now let's say you have got a score of 80. Okay, you all will get a score out of 100. Let's say it is 80. Now 80 out of 100 will be translated to something out of 1000. Okay, now that is something which is based on the relative performance of all the students who are appearing for gate in one particular year. So let's say your score translates to 850 out of 1000. Now 850 out of 1000 may get you a rank of, let's say, 100 in 2022. Whereas the same score, which is 80 out of 100, if you may all know that your gate score will be valid for 3 years. So this 80 out of 100, when it is computed out of 1000 in 2023, it may be somewhat like 800 or so, and then that score may actually give you a rank of 50. You never know. Okay, so that ranking will be relative. Don't worry about the ranking. You should only worry about scoring well. Your absolute score is what will determine your relative score in the relative scheme of things. Okay, so please make sure that you prepare well for gate and then you score well. That is very important. Okay, your absolute score will matter eventually because that score will be valid for 3 years, and whatever ranks you are going to get, whatever score out of 1000 you will get, that will all be relative. It will be based on the relative performance of all the students who are appearing for GATE in that year. Okay, so with that, we now open the floor for questions. So we have Sandeep who has already raised his hand. I'm going to hand over the mic option to Sandeep. Yeah, Sandeep, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Sandeep, yeah. Sandeep,
The session is very informative. I'm a MTech second year student in NIT Silchar. I gave GATE in 2020. I scored around 450. Like I was not doing well that time. Right now I want to pursue PhD in ISC Bangalore. Right now I'm working in the field of visible light communications, and I found Dr. Varun Raghunathan working in that field in visible light communications. So I want to, I deeply desire to get into ISC for PhD. So how the GATE score matters, and what are the steps that I need to take from now on so that I can have a good opportunity to do my PhD in ISC?
Okay, so you said
or
your
should
GATE
I
score
need to
is
give the
what?
GATE again? Like I got around 450, a rank of 6000 in 2020.
Rank is okay. Rank does not matter. All that matters is the GATE score. So if it is 450, you may have to check the exact cutoffs for last year, that is 2021. You may have to check the GATE scores. All of these cutoff scores are available on IAC website. Okay, iaac.ac.in. If you go there under admissions or somewhere, you will definitely find all these cutoff scores. Okay, now if you find that your score is below the cutoff score, I really advise you to take GATE this year. I hope you have registered for GATE. If not, there is still an option to register for GATE by paying some additional fees. So please do register for GATE. And if you feel your cutoff, if the score that you have scored is below the cutoff that is prescribed for admissions into IAC, specifically to ECE department, then I'd advise you to take GATE once again. Give your best shot at GATE. Usually, as far as I remember, the GATE cutoff for general category students is 600 out of 1000. Okay, so that is the cutoff that is usually prescribed. So once you clear that cutoff, you will be called for an interview. So if you make an application saying you want to join the PhD program at IISc, you won't be able to select Varun Raghunathan right away. First, you need to clear your interview. So when in the application, you will be mentioning PhD program, and then there will be a certain cutoff, let's say 600. If you clear that cutoff, you will be called for the interview. You will get an email saying you are eligible to come for the interview, and your interview is on such and such a date at such and such a time slot. So you will be called for the interview, you will be interviewed, and if you're based on the performance in your interview, you will either be selected or you will be asked to appear once more. Okay, so once you make it through the interview, it is at that time that you will be given an option to select which domain you want to work in. Actually, you would have selected your domain at the time of your PhD itself, at the time of your interview itself. There will be many topics that will be given to you, among which you can select your favorite topic to be interviewed in, and you will be asked questions in the topic that you like to be asked questions in. There is no hard and fast rule that you have to be asked questions in some particular topic which you don't even like. So ultimately, it is you who is going to do research. So if you like visible light communication, if you like optics, you will be asked questions in that only. RF, microwave, photonics, in those topics. So you will appear for the interview. If you clear the interview, at that time you will get an option to go and meet the professors one by one. You go talk to them. You ask them if they are willing to take PhD students, if they have openings in their lab. You go ask them what topics they have for all the students who would like to come in and pursue PhD under them. So you will have a detailed discussion with your professor, and only after that, if you find everything very satisfying, only after that you will select Varun Raghunathan as your PhD advisor. Varun Raghunathan will also have to make a list of all the students that he would potentially like to take as PhD students. There will be a matching that will be done between professors and students, and you will be allotted to Varun Raghunathan. So that is how you will eventually end up doing a PhD with Varun Raghunathan. I hope that was clarified your question.
Sir, just one more doubt.
Mhm.
Basically, there will be cutoffs for MTech and MTech research, but like others, I don't know whether it is myth or not. Others told that only GATE is a prerequisite, but it is the score. It is not that matter for the PhD admission.
In the sense that you need to clear the cutoff to come for the interview. See, if you are already a student from one of the IITs, etc., if you have done a BTech, then actually they don't say GATE is mandatory. But for those who are not at one of the IITs or more generally one of the centrally funded institutes, then GATE is mandatory to the extent that you need to clear the cutoff. That's all. Once you clear the cutoff, see, there will be like 12 lakh students who will be taking GATE. Not everybody can be called for the interview, right? So they actually do a first level of filtering based on GATE score or the GATE rank, depending on whether it is PhD, MTech research, or it is the MTech program. Okay, so first level of filtering will be done there. After that, they will forget all the scores. It's only based on your performance in the interview. Once you clear the cutoff, anybody who clears the cutoff will be eligible to come for the interview. So interview is what matters the most. I hope that answered your
Thank you,
question.
sir. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so now I'll request Nitin to unmute himself and ask his question.
Yeah. So I was there in the last meeting also.
Okay.
So my question is like, if I am doing like MTech from IISc and after one year of coursework, then I decided I should go for a PhD. So is there any provision to convert from MTech to directly PhD?
Yes, there is. In fact, we also know one friend of ours who did that. He was an MTech student. He joined as an MTech student, and he got so motivated by the courses that were taught at IISc, the kind of professors he could talk to at IISc, that he eventually felt motivated to convert to a PhD. So there is an option. Yes, there is an option. It's just administrative. That's all. You have to go and fill out some papers and say you want to convert to the PhD program, and of course they will ask you with whom are you interested to work, with which professor are you interested to work, what is your area of interest. Depending on that, you will go talk to that professor. If the professor is willing to take you as a PhD student, over. That's all. Directly you can convert to PhD. You can start pursuing PhD from then onwards. That's all. It's as simple as that. There is an option, yes.
And my second question is like, now there's like 3.5 months for GATE exam. So currently I have completed my syllabus and I am like a working professional. So I will be like sabbatical period from 1st of November to till the GATE exam. So what should be my strategies from 1st of November to get till GATE exam?
So actually, many people ask this question: is this duration enough to prepare for a GATE exam? I'm going to tell yes, definitely it is enough, provided you know what to focus on. So usually what happens is that there are some important formulae under each subject that usually comes up very frequently in the GATE papers. So what I would advise you to do is first go through every subject in detail and make make a note of all the important formulae, the relevant formulae. Make sure you understand how those formulae come, in what contexts should those formulae be applied. So that is one thing. And the second thing, perhaps more important than the first thing, is not only just making a note about the note of the formulae, you need to know where to apply those formulae, and that will come only by solving lots and lots of questions. So on a subject level also, you should solve as many questions as possible, because that will give you exposure to the different types of questions that can come from each subject. Now, not just subject level, but once you've completed the full syllabus, ideally it would be good if you can complete the syllabus by the end of December. Okay, so that the whole of January you can devote for taking mock exams or mock tests. These mock tests will be on all the subjects put together. It will be as if you are taking a 3-hour GATE exam. So you take as many mock exams as possible. See the different types of questions see as many different types of questions you can as possible. Okay, that will give you exposure. So please solve as many questions as possible. Problems. You have to solve problems. You have to put your pen on paper, solve, and become comfortable with solving questions in quick time. That is also important, not just solving, because I'm sure for each and every one of you, if you're given plenty of time, you will definitely be able to solve all the questions in GATE. The only question is, can you solve all the questions in 3 hours? And there is no necessity to solve all the questions also. At least the questions you solve, you should solve correctly. That's all. So the strategy would be to focus on the important, relevant formulae in each subject. Take as many subject level questions, problems. Do as many subject level problems as possible. In each subject, try to solve as many problems as possible. And by the end of December, until the end of December, please continue to do this. Subject level, keep getting thorough in every subject. And then after January, that is from January onwards, do as many mock tests as possible. Every day you take one mock test, that's enough. Sit for 3 hours, shut off your phone, do as if you are taking GATE exam. Okay, that will help you a lot. That's what I personally did, and that helped me immensely. It actually helped me get rid of that fear of taking GATE exam, because it was just another mock test that I'm going to give. Okay, I used to take mock tests as seriously as I would take GATE exam. So I think that's the advice that I'll give you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nitin.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving this opportunity.
Yeah.
My question is, if your student want to do a PhD on a particular topic, then is it mandatory to do a project on that field?
So I don't know what you call as project, but at IAC we call it thesis. Okay, it's not that project is mandatory. It is the outcome of your research. Okay, whatever research you are going to do, you need to tell other people about it, right? For example, how will I know what you are working on? I will know only when you publish it. Only when you put it out on some platform where the public can see it, only then I will know. So what you do during the course of your PhD is you will keep publishing research papers in reputed journals where public can have access to it. Now, all those research papers at the end of your PhD, for example, at the end of my PhD, I had about 4 conference papers and 3 journal papers. Okay, so I put all of these papers together into one big document, which they call as thesis. That's all. So thesis is something that is an outcome of your research. Don't look at it as something that is mandatory. It is not like that. It is the outcome of your research. Whatever research you have done, you will be putting that in your thesis. That's all.
Sorry, sir. My question is that if I'm a professor, I want to do a PhD in ISC on a particular topic. Before admission, before admission, I need to do a project on that topic if I want to do.
No. I mean, nobody will ask you to do a project even before you know what the topic is. You don't even know what topic you are going to work on, with whom you will be working, etc. Right? So without even having the domain expertise, nobody will ask you to work on anything. In fact, when you join IAC, nobody will ask you to do work straight away. First, they will give you the required background. You need to have the required background. You need to be able to understand the research papers that you are studying. All of this happens in a very principled, structured way at IAC. Okay, you will be given the required background so that you become one of the experts. IAC is not just shaping PhD students. IAC is going to shape, if you are a PhD student from IAC, you are an expert in the field. Tomorrow, people will come to you and ask you questions on a certain topic because you are an expert in that topic. So IISc will prepare experts. They will not just prepare PhD students who will graduate just like any other student. So you will be given all the required background before you take up any work. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this session, and it's a great helpful session.
Okay, glad you found this helpful. Thanks a lot, Bipina. Yeah.
So UGC NET, is there any opportunity to admission in IISc? I am an MC graduate. So another question.
Sorry, what is the question?
I am an MC graduate. I am preparing both UGC NET and GATE. So through UGC NET, if I got a JRF, can I admission in PhD in IISc?
So JRF is a different position. For example, I also was a JRF. JRF does not ask you to, it's a slightly different position at IISc, I feel, than a PhD student. A PhD student will also have to go through what is called a comprehensive exam and all of that. But I think a JRF is a slightly different position. I think a PhD candidate's position is more suitable. If you want to dive deep into research, I think JRF is more of a project assistant kind of a position where it's initially you try whether you actually like PhD program or not, and you experiment with this with your research abilities. So I think it's a slightly different position, I would say, Bipina.
Thank you so much for this.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I'll be lowering your hand. Next in line is Kishan Kumar. So Kishan, please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Sir, I'm currently in third year, sir. BC.
Third year of your
currently in
BTech.
Third year. Yes, sir. BTech.
Okay.
While I'm preparing for GATE exam, sir, I'll be having doubts, sir. Within a while, will I get IISc Bangalore, sir? I'm aiming for IISc, sir.
Okay. Very good. Why do you have doubts?
So
Even
I'm
before
worried
the
about
exam
that,
has
sir.
taken
Will I get IISc?
Exam has not yet happened. No, why do you have doubts now only? You give your best shot in the exam.
That should be my approach for attending GATE, sir.
So
third year.
just take care of just remove all your doubts. Okay, there should be no room for doubts. You want to pursue research at IISc, that's all. You should pursue your research at IISc. You should chase your passion. That's all. It's as simple as that. For doing that, what you need to do well in GATE, you focus on that now, because GATE exam is still in the end of January or the early first week of February. So there's still plenty of time. Prepare well for GATE. You focus on that. Don't worry about the end result. Whether you will make it to IISc or not is secondary. If you get a good GATE rank, there are perks of that. Even if you don't, if your mind changes, you don't want to do MTech, but you actually want to do a PhD straight away, something like that. Okay, so don't worry about the end result. Okay, worry about what you can do now. You should give your GATE exam and you should do it well enough. That's all. That is the only strategy now. There will be a score. It will be out of 100 marks. Get as much as possible. That's the only strategy now. Your complete focus should be on doing well in the GATE exam. Is that okay, Kishan?
Yes, sir. And after getting a research program in IISc, sir, can I get opportunity in foreign, sir, for studying?
Yes. For example, if you join for MTech program or MTech research program, you can certainly go abroad for a PhD. That option is definitely there. In fact, if you do very good work at IISc, if the professors are happy with your research output, they will only recommend you to very good places abroad. Okay. Usually what happens is that after BTech, it is very difficult for students like us, all of us, even me, for example, when I was an undergraduate student, it would have been very difficult for me to go for a PhD to a university like MIT, Caltech, Berkeley, Princeton. Okay. It is almost impossible to dream of these universities because these are all tier 1 colleges in the US. And not just these, EPFL in Switzerland, for example, and ETH Zurich in Switzerland. All these are excellent universities, National University of Singapore. So it is quite difficult to dream of going to very good places abroad. Okay. But when you work with professors at IISc, these professors have personal contacts in those universities, and they will be able to recommend your name directly to those professors. And if those professors, that is these professors in the top US universities, if they have openings in their labs for PhD students, they will directly take you. Okay, it will be like a red carpet welcome for you. So all you need to do is do research well at IISc, because if professors have to write recommendation letters, They cannot write that you are a good student, you have scored this much, I know him personally like this. They cannot write anything on the personal front. They can only write how good your work was, how well you are able to do research. That is what they will be able to write about in their recommendation letter. So it is very important for you to do research well. You come to IISc with a good GATE rank, focus on doing excellent quality research. You will get very good recommendations to go to universities abroad for PhD. Definitely that option is there. Now, as a PhD student at IISc, of course, there is no option of going for PhD again abroad, because anyway you are pursuing PhD at a very, very good university. There are options abroad in terms of student exchange programs. So there are something called student exchange programs, where for one semester or so, some students from IISc will go to some university abroad, and some students from university abroad will come to IISc. So there will be exchange of students. They will continue to do their PhD. They will continue to get monetary support. Money will come. Everything will come. It's just that you're going to do research in a different university, in a different lab, in a collaboration. That's all. Okay, so you get to collaborate with people from other universities. You actually get to travel to international conferences. For example, I have myself been to Paris twice. Okay, and my travel was completely funded. I went there, I spoke with the experts in my field. I asked them what they feel about my work. When I listen to them appreciating about my work, it is such motivation for me to actually do more such good work, get more such ideas. Okay, because they appreciate, they are all experts in the field. You actually meet people who have written famous textbooks. You meet those textbook authors, and when you see them appreciating you for the ideas that you have obtained, for the work that you have done, I think it's something which is inexplicable. Okay, it's so valuable to us. Like, we cherish all those moments. I still remember that moment when one professor came and patted on my shoulders and he said, "Excellent work, Karthik." That gives so much of motivation for us to actually do good work, and not just do good work, share this good work with everybody. Go teach the students, tell them also, motivate them. That is what gets us to do sessions like this for all of you. Okay, we want to share those experiences. We want all of you to come to IISc and experience whatever we are experiencing. It's really, really beautiful. Okay, it's just a little bit of sacrifice from our side in terms of having perseverance to go through PhD. That's all. That's all. Please don't look at it as a commitment for a long term. It's commitment to improve yourself. Okay, so I think that's all I have to say on that.
And and when should I be worrying about which course I should take for the research?
That is after GATE. Once the GATE results come, after, so you would have already made applications to IISc. Once your GATE results come out, then you will know for what programs you are eligible. Depending on that, you will receive a call for the MTech interview or for the PhD interview, whatever it is, according to the score or the rank that you have obtained. At that time, you decide. If you have multiple offers, if you have MTech coursework offer, MTech research offer, between these two, which do you choose? That is left to you. At that time, you worry about all that. Okay, for now, you worry about doing well in GATE exam.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the
Okay,
inspiration.
give your best in GATE exam, and hope you can make it to IISc. Okay, all the best.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay, Kishan, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have Neha in line. Neha, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much. It has been really inspiring to listen to you all. So, sir, my basic question was regarding the difference between MTech and MTech research. So, some of the questions were really solved in the chat, but there was one question that is there a downside in doing MTech research over MTech coursework? Because we can see the cutoffs of normal MTech are really very much higher than research. And what I could imagine is ideally research people get more time for their research, they have to do less coursework, and they even get more time for their placement preparations as well. And as I knew from the chat, ma'am has said that there is no partiality regarding the placements for research people and normal MTech people. Then is there any other downside in taking MTech research and not the coursework program?
Excellent question. Thanks for bringing this up. So actually, there is no downside. Okay, there is no downside to any program at IISc. Each has its own way of looking at it. So, for example, MTech research is a program that's like a mini PhD. Okay, you get some flavor for research. You get some flavor for what it is like to do research on a particular topic, what it is like to generate new ideas, come up with new ideas, what it is like to read a lot of research papers, discuss with people, etc. Okay. Now, usually MTech coursework students don't do this much of research. Okay. They get only 1 year for doing their research. So in the MTech program, the MTech coursework program is for 2 years. It's a fixed duration of 2 years. In the first year, students usually end up taking courses. In the second year, they devote time for doing project, which is their MTech thesis. Okay, now in the first year, when they take courses, they are given exposure to a lot of domains. Okay, they take a lot of courses from various disciplines and they get exposure to a lot of subjects. Why are they given this exposure? That is because it will enable them to decide for themselves which field they are actually interested to work in the future. Okay, it can be either in the industry or in the academia. That is, if they later want to do a PhD, at least they should be clear which field they want to do their PhD in, right? So in order to give that much of clarity, they are given exposure to a lot of courses like that. You won't get exposure to those many courses in MTech research program because you are already interested in doing research, but you don't know whether you want to commit yourself for PhD. PhD is a slightly extended version of your MTech research program. So typically students who come for MTech research have in mind that they actually want to do research. They don't, they want to work on something and produce new ideas and things like that, but they don't know if that is what they will actually end up liking. So it is like an experiment in research. Okay, so what you do is in MTech research, you don't take as many courses as MTech students. You take certain specific courses that will help you in your research, and then you will end up doing research for the most part. So the courses that you would have taken in MTech research will help you in your research. You will be using all those all the courses, the material that you study during your courses, you will apply directly into your research and you will carry out research. And if you like that research, perhaps you will continue into the PhD program. If you don't, you will end up joining the industry. Either way, it is okay. But slightly more emphasis on research is there in the MTech research program. But for the placements, nothing matters. There is no difference at all. Even for joining for a PhD later on, actually there is no difference. But MTech research students usually get an upper hand in terms of joining for a PhD because they would have already experimented. They already know that they want to do research. They like doing research. Whereas that MTech coursework students would not have done such deep research. So MTech research students do slightly deeper research, whereas MTech coursework program students don't do that much of research. The goal for them is to give them exposure to as many courses, as many disciplines as possible, so that they can make an informed decision about which topic they would like to pursue their further studies in, or which topic they would like to work in the future. So is that okay?
Yeah, yes. Just one small question on this. Just because they are taking less number of courses, does this hamper the ones who want to join the industry and are sitting for placements on priority? Does this have you heard this happening or something like that?
Oh, definitely not. I think Vijay Lakshmi is a better candidate to answer this question than me because she is an MTech research student who is sitting for placements now. So you can hear from her. Vijay Lakshmi?
Yeah. So, like I told you, the courses that you do in the first and second semester are more than enough to attend placements. Beyond that, it doesn't matter. Okay, in the first and second semester, MTech research, MTech, everybody will take the same courses. So it doesn't really matter whether when you go for placements, whether you both don't have the same number of courses, it doesn't matter. There may be variations in a few subjects depending on depending on the research topic. For instance, I wanted to do research in image processing. So I did not take, in the second semester, I did not take courses related to signal processing or, signal processing, like adaptive signal processing and so on. I took courses in later in video processing and advanced image processing. So there's only a difference with respect to that. However, I'm saying that this will not affect your placements because when you apply for jobs, you won't apply for jobs like image processing engineer, something like that. It will be an umbrella term, the roles that you get. So your CV will speak for yourself. I mean, your CV will speak for yourself, is what I'm saying. Your CV will speak for yourself. So this number of courses and all doesn't matter. And one more point I'd like to add is regarding the question that you asked. See, the cutoff is basically lower because it was generally noticed that there were not many takers for the research program. So it is only to encourage students to take up research programs that the cutoffs have been lowered. That is one of the reason, I believe. I've heard it from somebody. So,
because
so you need not
even
think that,
I have heard that actually, because many students they will not have a very good let's say GATE score, because GATE usually tests on a number of subjects, right? Some students will not be able to perform well in all the subjects, but they will have a lot of interest in pursuing higher studies in one particular stream, and to enable such students to come forward, this GATE score was actually lowered. The cutoff was lowered to 600. It's only for that. That's all. As Vijayalakshmi very rightly said, it's to
you need not think that it's because you need not think that it's because the program is like inferior or in some way. No, that's not the right thing to imagine. Yeah.
Also, one more thing is that I was, for example, looking to join the MTech research program, okay, and not the PhD program, because I was not very sure whether I want to commit myself for this PhD program, which is usually this is for an average of 4 to 5 years. Okay, it is of course extremely well paying in terms of how it shapes you and all of that, but I was not sure whether to commit myself. So when I approached some professors, they said, you can join the MTech research program. We can see how our relationship will build. If you like working with me, you can continue. Otherwise, you can always finish your MTech research and go. That's what they used to say. So this is like an experimental phase where you also see whether the rapport with your professor, with your supervisor is going well or not, because you should not be stuck in a PhD program and end up not liking it, correct? So if you like the MTech research program, you can definitely upgrade to a PhD. That upgradation to PhD is available from both MTech as well as MTech research. For students who are slightly more inclined for the research program, this MTech research program has been designed. As we already said, some students will be extremely good at grasping many subjects, and they'll be doing very well in all the subjects. For such students, the MTech course program was actually designed. And for students who are not adept at taking up a lot of subjects at once, but have a lot of focus in one particular area, they want to delve deep into that particular subject. For such students, this MTech research program was introduced as a intermediate program between MTech and PhD. So it's like that.
Okay.
Placement wise, nothing will make a difference. Everything is the same. In fact, the profile that you will apply for, when you say you're an MTech research candidate, questions will be based on the kind of work that you have done. They will test your research abilities more than your coursework abilities as when you're an MTech research student. So it will be like that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you, ma'am.
Companies which come for placements at IISc will certainly be knowing the background. MTech research means what, MTech means what, PhD means what. They will know in depth. So based on that, they will ask you questions.
Yes, sir. Actually, my name is Somu Vasuri. Am I audible?
So yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, sir, I am currently a second year undergrad at Jadavpur University in electrical engineering. And sir, I really want to pursue research in artificial intelligence and neuroscience. That is not, directly related to electrical engineering in all the fields, I guess. But I saw that I am eligible as if I get and give GATE in electrical engineering also, I will be eligible for that.
Certainly. Yes, certainly.
Yes, sir. For only MTech coursework, if I go not the research one, then I have one course that is in artificial intelligence. That one is there, but for MTech research, such courses are not really there. It's directly in the PhD I saw. That is the brain and artificial intelligence. BAI.
For MTech research and PhD, nobody will tell you what courses you have to take. It depends on the specific topic you want to work on. If you are interested in working on machine learning, you will end up taking courses on machine learning. Okay, there is no hard and fast rule. There are no courses prescribed for MTech research and PhD. That is what I was telling even Neha. So there are no courses for MTech research and PhD. There are courses prescribed only for the MTech program. That's all. MTech coursework, that is. For MTech coursework, there are a list of courses that are prescribed. Some of them are mandatory, some of them are not mandatory. Okay. For MTech research and PhD, you will take courses by discussing with your research supervisor. You will sit with your research supervisor, discuss what courses you can take. If you are interested in ML, AI, you go take courses on ML, AI, optimization, machine learning, reinforcement learning. Take those courses. Nobody is going to stop you.
Okay, sir. So one question was that can I apply for both that MTech for only curriculum one, that is that
MTech
AI,
coursework,
that is coursework, and also a research oriented that
yes,
in which
yes,
there
I
is no
applied.
specified.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, I
both
applied for
to-
such a program. Yes, you can apply for
yeah.
both.
Okay,
In fact,
sir.
I had got a call from both the programs. I decided to choose the MTech research program. In fact, I later upgraded that to PhD also. So it'll be in your hands. You can apply for both. If you get selected in both the programs, you will be given some time period to make a choice between the two programs that you want to choose from.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for the session. And
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome, Somu. Yeah. Next in line is Vikash Sharma. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Just a quick check on time. Just 1 second, Vikash. Just a quick check on time. We are now it's 12:35. We can't extend the session too much. Perhaps we can stop at 12:45 if it's okay with all of you. We will of course make this recording available. Try to see if we can make this recording available online. Try to follow the IAC pages on social media, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and all of these places. We'll try to make this recording available if possible. So this should come from the higher authorities. That's why. Most probably they will agree to make this recording available for all of you. So we will try to close the session at 12:45. So perhaps we can take questions from 1 or 2 more people depending on time. So Vikash, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, sir, I have a doubt regarding. I have heard that IC curriculum is rigorous or hectic. Is it myth or true?
Okay, so it is rigorous. I will agree with you. I will openly tell you it is rigorous. Why is that? Is the question. Now, there is a difference between the kind of courses we have studied till now and the kind of courses we study at IISc. Okay, just to give you a small flavor for why students find the courses rigorous. If somebody asks you how is 1 + 2 = 3, it's very easy to tell. Okay, since childhood you have been taught how 1 + 2 = 3. Okay, as a child you were counting on fingers, 1 in the mind, 2 in the fingers. After 1, 2, 3, you were counting on fingers. Okay, so it's very easy to tell how 1 + 2 = 3. But if somebody comes and asks you why is 1 + 2 = 3, why is it not equal to 4? Do you have a ready answer for that? At least I did not have. And courses at IAC will teach you this perspective of why things work the way they work. Until now, we know how integration works, but do you know why integration works? Possibly you don't know. Okay, you will end up learning that at IAC. So the kind of approach towards learning is slightly different at IAC. That's all. Okay, if you call that rigorous, okay, we'll all agree it is rigorous. Okay, it's only rigorous because we are not used to that kind of thinking before. We are only used to learning it from a certain perspective. We have not questioned ourselves, why does this really work? Can I come up with an example where this does not work? These are the kind of questions that people will ask you. For example, if you are giving a research presentation, let's say to an audience of 80 people, in which there are students, there are faculty members from other departments, the faculty will come and ask you, Karthik, you are telling me something, but I think I have a simpler idea than yours. Can you tell me why my idea will not work? Why is it that you are stressing more importance? Why is it that you are giving importance to your idea? What is special about your idea? Why doesn't my idea work? This is the kind of discussion that happens at IAC. There is an exchange of ideas. You will have to tell why your idea is superior to others' ideas. Okay, so the kind of thinking that you will be given at IAC is slightly different, which we will not be used to before. If you're already used to this kind of thinking, you will not find it rigorous at all. You will have to think on your own feet. Here, the professors will not copy questions from textbooks. The questions that will be asked in the exams are all based on the research experience of the professors. In fact, we students also decide what questions should come. In fact, we students are given the opportunity to set question papers. Do you know that? So it is our responsibility to make sure we set good questions for the students so that everybody finds the question paper interesting. So if you have to set a question paper, you should be able to think on your own feet. You cannot simply copy questions from some textbook, right? You can do that, but you are also given the freedom to set questions according to your own experience of whatever you have seen at IAC, according to your knowledge, according to the way you have understood subjects. So it's a different way of understanding, I would say. If you want to call that rigorous, yes, it is rigorous.
Hello, yeah, thank you for this session, sir.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you mentioned it just now, as an undergraduate, you had a confusion about going into MTech or PhD. So, what mindset or what you would recommend to think of for this option or for this choice between MTech and PhD? Because as an undergraduate, I am interested into learning more about electronics and in this field. And so, what should I do? Should I
Yeah.
take a
So
risk
see,
for
one
2
thing.
years, or
So
should
one
I
thing
go?
is that, yeah, I'll tell you that. So one thing is that electronics. If you're an electronics student, I am also an electronics student. Electronics and communications is a very vast branch. Okay, it's very difficult to say what will interest us there unless and until we get to know about some specific topics in some detail. We will not be able to make this choice. So ideally, if you have this doubt, I would recommend you join the MTech program first, either the MTech program or the MTech research program. Okay, MTech research will give you slightly more feel for what research is, because many students will have this doubt, right? What exactly is research? What do people actually do? Research means what do they do? So people will have this doubt, right? If you want to get some clarity on what research means, for example, I can tell you that research means reading a lot of research papers, trying to extract ideas from these research papers and coming up with a new idea based on the existing ideas, applying the existing ideas to come up with something new which nobody has done before. Okay, all this constitutes research. But this is all like saying gulab jamun is sweet. Unless you put gulab jamun in your mouth and feel that sweetness, you won't realize what sweet is. Okay, if you want to get an experience for both research and some domain expertise, I would suggest you join the MTech research program. Otherwise, if you are still not very clear what you want to do, I think the best would be to join for the MTech coursework program. You will be given exposure to a lot of subjects. You will study all of these subjects in quite some depth. So at that time, you will get to know, okay, these are the kind of subjects that are in the cutting edge these days in this electronics and communications. So there are 12 subjects I have studied. There are 12 different topics. Perhaps this is the topic that I want to go into because I found this the most interesting. You will make a decision like that, and perhaps you can study further in that topic after you get some clarity. So if you don't have that clarity, I would advise you to join the MTech programs, either MTech coursework or MTech research. Okay, I think that's what I will say.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, it's 12:42. Yeah, Gaurinath, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a doubt. I no need to focus more on research work. I need to get a good company with a good package. That's all I need. Should I take MTech coursework or research or PhD?
Yeah, I mean, so you can get a good package after you take any of these programs. Rest assured, IAC placements are like that. Okay, it's not that MTech students will get better package. Of course, PhD students will get a slightly better package because they have actually committed themselves for that much long period of time, and they have that expertise. They have the value. They can add so much of value later, even to the companies that they join. So the best profiles are, of course, offered to PhD candidates, but not to deny that MTech students also get very good profiles. Okay, so certainly you can join the MTech program, and you can sit for placements after that. You can do MTech research and sit for placements. I can also sit for placements, for example, now having finished PhD, but I have decided to take up postdoctoral studies, which is like more deep into research. Okay, so it's placements is something that is guaranteed for everyone. Everybody is eligible to sit for placements. Packages are extremely good in all of these programs. You don't have to worry about that at all. If you want to take up, if you want a job very soon, then perhaps MTech would be the best choice because it is just for 2 years. Otherwise, I would really advise that you give your hand at research and see what opportunities will open up for yourself.
Sir, one more question. For IAC, we have to apply separately, right? So after GATE results come, we have to apply, or?
So usually what happens is the IAC application portal opens sometime in January. So as soon as you please keep monitoring the IAC webpage for when the applications are going to start and when the applications are going to end. Actually, this is a very good question. Thank you for bringing this up, because I took GATE twice, once in 2014 and once in 2015. When I took GATE in 2014, I had a very good rank actually. I had a rank of 255, but I did not apply for IAC. By the time I actually applied, the application portal was closed. Okay, I thought one should apply after GATE exam. It's not like that. You have to keep monitoring. The GATE results will take some time. GATE results will come sometime in March. Okay, you should not wait until then, because the application portal for IAC usually opens sometime in January and closes sometime during the end of February or something like that. This time duration will keep varying every year, of course, but just keep a tab on the IAC application portal. Okay, go to the IAC webpage. There is this admissions tab. There you will find all the details about when the application opens, when the application closes, all of this. Keep a tab on that. Please don't wait until GATE results come. That will be too late to apply for IAC. Don't make the same mistake that I made. Okay. Yeah.
So, sir, I'm a third year now. I'm writing GATE now also. So, but with this score, I need to apply next year only, you know, sir. In 2023
Correct.
only, I need to apply for it. Okay, sir.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Korinath. Okay. So we'll have Prathamesh ask the next question. Prathamesh, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session. I want to know that, sir, how hard it is to pursue MTech or MTech research, as someone did BTech from Tier 3 college.
BTech from?
Tier 3 college, sir.
Okay, so I don't know what is the ranking of institutes in India as tier 1, 2, 3, etc. But you don't have to worry about what your background is, as long as you are passionate about something that you want to do. Okay, as long as you are ready to add value to the research community by producing new ideas, by teaching the world of new ways to think about a certain problem, you are most welcome to join the community at IAC. Okay, IAC community is very welcoming. Nobody looks at your background. Of course, one can have a poor background. I also had a poor background, for example. But professors at IAC are so kind to us. They have structured the programs, the courses in such a way that it will give us the required background for us to take up research later on. Okay, so irrespective of your background, it will be like a clean slate for you now. Forget everything. Okay, forget everything that has happened in the past. Your current state only matters. From here, you proceed further. That's all. It's like that. Whatever has happened has happened. You cannot rectify that now. If you join IAC, you will be given the required background. You will be taught the courses in such a way that you will acquire the necessary background to work on excellent research problems, super good quality research problems. That's all there is to this.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks, Prathamesh. Yeah, Sanket, you can go next.
Thank you for the session, sir. What is the right age for masters or PhD? What should be the correct age to start it?
There is actually no correct age, to be very frank.
For PhD,
so I know,
for PhD, sir?
Yeah, same for PhD, because I know one candidate who has appeared for PhD this year. She is married. She has a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old kid, and she has joined for PhD this year. Okay, that itself says something about her. It's all about passion, Sanket. It's all about the passion to do something and to contribute something to the society. Finally, I think that's what finally matters. Your age, your gender, none of this matters. Okay, none of this is actually a barrier in research. There are people who have joined PhD at the age of 45 and completed at the age of 50. I know such people. So there are many people who have undergone GATE coaching under that person. Okay, that person was taking GATE coaching until the age of 45, and he decided he wants to upgrade his knowledge and he wants to do a PhD. He came to IAC at the age of 45. There is no age bar at all. They don't ask you. Even if they ask you, it's not a criterion at all. Your age, that is. I don't think in the application they ask you about your age. They may ask you your date of birth, perhaps, but still that is not a criterion at all for selecting you into the PhD program, okay, or the master's program. There is absolutely no age, Sanket. You can come at any time.
And on the other end of the spectrum, you can also join PhD at a very young age. For example, our friend who converted from MTech to PhD, when he converted to PhD, I think he was 23 years old. So he finished BTech, and then after 1 year of MTech, he converted to PhD. So I think you can do the math. He was 23, I think. So there is no
Yeah.
there is no bounds. I mean, the bounds are just probably 21 or 22 when you finish your BTech to infinity.
Yeah. See, it also depends on how well you can manage responsibilities in your personal life also. That is the only thing. So long as you can manage that, so long as you have support, I think there is no end to when you can join for a master's or a PhD. I think it's like that. There are also professors, there are also people who have become professors, full professors at the age of 23, 24. So you can imagine, like, the spectrum is very vast. Okay. So thanks, Sanket. Yeah, so we had sub come before, but I think, yeah, who is this?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, my name is Subramanya.
Subramanya. Yeah, Subramanya.
I just want to ask one question that
Okay.
I've read in some websites that some people have actually finished their PhD in 4 years and 3 years, but the course is actually for 5 years. Is it actually possible to finish in less time?
It is
and get
possible.
the degree also
Yes.
in 3 years?
Yes, it is possible. There is one of my lab mates who did his PhD in 3 years. I know one person who completed his PhD in 4 years. It is possible. Of course, you'll be given credit for doing that. It depends on the kind of problem you are solving and how fast you can get ideas on that problem. So really, it is about your ability. If you can finish, well and good. Certainly, it is possible.
Okay, so after 3 years, they can continue with that as a teaching profession, or they can go to industry. They can continue with the career after that.
Yes, certainly. In fact, I know people who have completed their PhD within 3 years, and then they have gone for a postdoctoral study abroad. So, yes, it is possible, definitely.
Possible. Okay, sure. Thank you. That it's my question. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, okay. So I guess we gave opportunities to Gaurinath. So I think we are running out of time. I think we have to close. We decided to close at 12:45. But it's already 12:51 now. So we'll try to make this recording available. Okay, so thank you all for joining. And I think I should personally thank each of the speakers for their time, for the time that they gave here. I think all of you made this session very interactive and hope you found the suggestions and the tips and the advice that we shared here useful. We hope that as many of you will take GATE exam and you will come forward and take up research later on at IAC, because we really need a lot of people to come and join us to do research, do good quality research. I think as long as this keeps happening, the country is in a good state. There is a lot of contribution to the body of science, and this in general is a positive, because it will motivate a lot others. It will attract young minds to come forward. So I think this is what is our earnest hope, that all of you will do well in GATE exam. You will take GATE exam and use that as a pathway to come to IAC and undertake research. Yeah, if you have any more questions, you can send it to us via email, or you can connect with us via over LinkedIn. So can the speakers type in their email IDs in the chat box? Can I request all the speakers to type in their email IDs? And kindly type in my email ID also, because I don't have the option to chat once again. I somehow lost that option again. So can I request all of you speakers to please enter in your email IDs? So Nagbhushan and Amrit have left, I guess. We'll have to type in their email IDs as well. So Vijayalakshmi, can you please do it for us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Harshit has typed in, thanks. Only the speakers will be typing in their email IDs, so that anyone who has questions can write to us. We are also there on LinkedIn, so you can connect with us on LinkedIn. We can take it forward from there also. Okay, great. Vijayalakshmi has put in. Can you please put in my email ID as well? pnkarthik1992@gmail.com.
Can you spell Karthik?
Karthik.
Okay. PN Karthik
1992@gmail.com. Yeah, Abhilash, your question was about the COVID scenario having affected the research courses. Yeah, the courses are now happening online over Microsoft Teams. And the courses are happening as usual, but just in an online mode. That's all. Yeah, and Nagbhushan is typing. Okay, great. And somebody has to type in Amrit's email ID as well if somebody wants to get in touch with him as an MTech student. We all used to be able to meet in the messes, if not for this COVID. We would chat over either lunch or dinner or breakfast whenever we met in the messes. But now, because of COVID, this one-on-one meetings have not been happening. We have all gathered here over Teams for this session. I guess that's the rule of the day. Yeah, can somebody please type in Amrit's email ID if possible? I think he has left the meeting. With that, we can close the session. Just so that everybody has all the speakers' email IDs. Yeah, Abhilash, the utility of online courses, I agree with you. It's not maybe as effective as what it would be if the courses were offline. All the students coming together in one class, interacting personally with the professor, with the instructor for the course, or even with the teaching assistants, for example. That certainly can't happen in a nice way if it is online. I agree with that, but that's the best one can do now. They are planning to reopen the gates slowly. They are reopening it for students to come in. So hopefully things will become better in the days to come, and we will all be able to meet at IAC. 2022, it's still not clear what it would be like. Currently, the odd semester, that is the first semester of the third semester, the odd semester is now going on. I think the committee at IAC, comprising the dean of academics and the registrar, all of them will take a decision on what should be done in 2022 or even from January 2022 onwards. Now, 5.5 GPA in BTech actually doesn't matter, sir, Subramanya Bhatt. It doesn't actually matter. I think what matters is the GATE score. I think there will be a certain minimum cutoff, which I'm not sure about. I don't think that should be a criterion. That is the score in BTech. I think he can still get admission in IAC. Please do encourage that student to appear for GATE and do well in GATE. I think that's what will matter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like we may not have Amrit's email ID. So we have put in the email IDs of all the other speakers. Kindly do connect with us if you have any questions, okay? So thanks all once again for joining. If there is any such event in the future, we'll let you know. Please follow IAC's social media pages to get more information about any of the upcoming events like this. Yeah, once again, thank you all. We'll close the session with the count of 5.